All right, hello everybody and good morning to all of you. Today I have a very fun arts and crafts activity for you all, and as a reminder, my name is Callie, and the arts and craft activity that we will be doing today is a paper plate rainbow activity. And there's only a few simple things you need for this activity. First, as I said, you will need a paper plate. In this case, I'm actually using a styrofoam plate. So any plate that's disposable that you're willing to paint on and to kind of cut up and wreck. Next, you will need paints and you will need the colors of the rainbow as we are creating a rainbow plate. So as a reminder, the colors you need for that will be red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and for the end portion, instead of doing indigo and violet, I am just going to be using a purple base to cover that part. So you will need the colors of the rainbow. Next, you will need a paintbrush. Otherwise, you could always finger paint as long as you're comfortable with that, because it doesn't have to be perfect. There's no straight lines or anything that are needed for a paintbrush. The next thing, you will need a scissors to cut your plate as well as to cut your paper. With that being said, you will need some paper. Today I am using craft paper, but again, you could use any type of paper that you want. I would suggest using a white piece of paper, as this will be making the cloud of our rainbow. And then you also will need a marker or a pen or a pencil or some type of writing utensil. This will be used to outline the shape of your cloud as well as to add details to the face. You could use this marker also to use for eyes, but in my case I am using googly eyes. And with googly eyes you will need glue, and then to adhere your paper plate to your paper you will need some other type. You could use that glue. I will be opting to use tape as I found it to be a little bit easier, but glue works just as well. But that is all you will need. Here's a little sneak peek at what we will be doing today. Super fun, super easy. But for the portion of the color, if you don't want to use paints, you can opt to use crayons, markers, colored pencils, anything that can create that rainbow pattern on there. I just opted to use paint as I had it available to me, but if you would like to use markers instead or crayons instead, that works awesome as well. So we will jump into it right away. The first thing we will be doing is we will be cutting our plate in half, and from there we will be painting, and then we will move on to the cloud portion. So I'm gonna try to angle you down so you can see what I'm doing. Just like that. Okay. So again, I have my plate. I'm using a styrofoam plate, a paper plate. Any type of plate you are willing to kind of destroy for this works. I'm gonna use a safety scissors. Remember to be careful with your scissors, as I know that they can be sharp. But what we're gonna do is we're simply just going to cut this right in half. If you do want a guideline, you can take your marker and kind of just eyeball where you think half is. I'll kind of just guess there. I drew 2 lines and I'll just connect them with my scissors. Otherwise, you can just go for it. And you won't have to use both sides for this, so if one of the sides ends up looking a little wonky, we can always go back and use a different half and kind of clean it up. Okay, so as you can see, now I have my 2 halves, which they're actually both pretty straight. So it doesn't really matter which one I use. I'll just use this one right here, as it doesn't have that marker on it. But all right, I also right here just have a half a plate that I was using to put the paints onto. just to kind of wipe my brush off. Again, if you are using one single paintbrush or if you're using your fingers, I would recommend having some warm soapy water and maybe paper towels or napkins or a towel available to kind of clean off your brush or your fingers in between. I'm kind of just gonna play around with different paintbrushes. That way I don't have to keep washing every time. So I'm gonna find my biggest ones so I can use them. Okay, so we'll use these 3 because they are the largest. I'll show you how big they are. Just like that. So in comparison to my finger, that's how big the tip is. But alrighty, so we will just jump right in. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Again, this is just my little scrap piece that I will be putting excess paint onto. This is the actual rainbow that we will start with. So as I said, we will be going down the line of the rainbow colors, and I will start from the top to the bottom as that is the easiest to do. I'm also going to be putting a plastic bag down. This is up to you. You could also use parchment paper or anything else. I'm just doing it to kind of protect my surface so I don't get paint on the table. So I'm just going to flatten it down and place my paper plate on top. That way I don't make a mess. So for this, you could do this multiple ways. For painting, again, if you're using markers or crayons, you can just go right ahead and start without me. But you could either dip straight into your bottle of paint, you could put some paint onto this little excess and then dip and go back and forth. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually just gonna do a few little dots of our red paint. I'm gonna shake it a little bit first, and then I'm just gonna drag the brush around. So I will show you what I mean here. And you don't need too much. You can always go back and add more. Okay, but I will show you what this looks like right now. So as you can see, I just put 5 dots around the edge. Then I will be taking one of the paintbrushes and I'm just going to drag it around. So I'll start at one side. We'll use a different. Start at one end. You don't want to make it too thick as you do have a lot more colors to go, but you do want to make it thick enough that you will be able to see that color. And I'm going to pull it all the way to the edge. All right, and then I'm going to grab this new color. And I'm just gonna go around the entire thing just like that. All right, and then I'm gonna make sure I got all my edges. Just gonna kind of go around once more like this, kind of clean all that up. Make sure I got all that outside, and it looks like I did. All right, so this is what the first portion of it looks like. As you can see, I didn't use too much red, but I did use enough to cover it all. So we will be doing the same exact thing, but with orange. So what I've been doing is, so I'm just going to kind of rub off as much paint as I can. I didn't use much red, and because red and orange are so similar in color, I don't think I'm gonna switch paintbrushes. So I just wiped off the excess paint, and now my brush is semi-clean, clean enough for me to continue. So next in the rainbow, as I said before, after red comes orange. So I will take my orange again, and I will just dot around my paper plate. So I'll add the dots and then I will show you. Seemed that 5 little dots worked well, so that is what I will do again. Okay, so there are my 5 orange dots, and I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm just going to start working my way all the way around. And I'm going to try hard not to touch the red, as I don't want to cover it. If it touches a little, it's not a big deal. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I got all the way around. I do have a little bit of excess paint that I don't want, so I'm just gonna kind of scrape that off, and then I'm gonna go around and just kind of pick up some of that paint. Some of it over on this side is covering my red, so I'm gonna try to just pick that up a little bit without smearing the colors too much. But so there's our second layer. As you can see, I got a little dot down here of orange. I'm just gonna kind of rub that in. The yellow should cover it fine. I'm just gonna wipe off my brush again, as I didn't get that much paint on it. When you're not using a lot of paint, what tends to happen is all that paint is leaving your brush, leaving it to not stain the actual brush, so you're in the clear. Let's see if I can get this yellow open. Okay, so I'll show you the alternative to putting dots down would simply just to be taking your paint and dipping your paintbrush into it. So for my yellow, I'm just going to take my paintbrush. I'm gonna kind of try to pull some paint to the top and then dip down. You don't have to take too much. As you can see, only 1/2 of the bristles are actually covered, which should be enough. Again, you can always go back and take more, whereas you can't really take less. So it's always better to just start out with a little bit, and then you can work from there. But so we will go on to this next layer. I'm just gonna start at one end and we will pull it all the way around as we have been before. Alright. I think we might need a little bit more. So I'm going to dip into our paint one more time. Alright, so I took about as much as I did last time. And we just want to fully cover all of these areas. Alright, so as you can see, my yellow did cover that orange spot very well. So there is nothing to worry about there. I do have a lot of excess paint on this one, so I am just going to set this to the side and we will start a new paintbrush. This would be a time that if you are using one paintbrush, you might want to be cleaning in between colors as they will start to mix. I noticed that on the yellow. It kind of did pick up some red. You can't really see it on camera. You can kind of right up here, but I'm not gonna worry about it too much, but we will move on to our next color. So after yellow in our rainbow comes green. So we will do green next. So I'll take my green here, and I'm going to dot again, as I found that to be the easiest trick. So because we are getting smaller around the rainbow, I'm not gonna do 5 dots this time, as that might be too much. I'm gonna do 3 for right now and see where that leaves us. If we need more, we can always go back and add. So just like before, we'll just start at one end and pull it all the way around. I'll show you what I'm doing. Makes it easier to start it out facing me, as the colors tend to want to drip away from me. Alright, so as you can see, I did mix some green in there on accident into that yellow, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that yellow paintbrush that still has a good amount of excess yellow paint, and I'm just going to go over that quickly. And as you can see, it covered up really well. So that's the good thing about using separate brushes, is you can always go back as well with that color. I'm gonna go around once more and just kind of clean up that line. All right, but there is your green. Next color is our blue. And I am just going to use the same brush, as we didn't use much green paint, so I'm just going to be wiping that off. As you can see, I wiped off the majority of the paint, and then we will work on our blue. So 3 dots seem to work pretty good for the green, and I will just do the same for the blue. I'll try to make them a little bit smaller even. All right, so as you can see, I just added 3 dots of blue right there, and then I'm gonna take my paintbrush and I'm gonna work my way all the way around again. I'm gonna start at the bottom. And painting is more of a tedious process, as you have to go through with each color, whereas I feel if you were using markers or crayons, it might go a little bit faster, especially as they dry so quickly. Okay, so I kind of did run out of blue, so I'm going to drop one more color. And we'll just work our way around. I'm gonna make this a little bit thicker, as we only are doing one more color after this. Okay, so as you can see, that's where we leave with our blue, and I am going to discard of this paintbrush, as you only have one color left. So again, the last color I am using, instead of indigo and violet, I am just going to be using the purple. And for this, I'm just gonna drop 2 small dots onto the empty space, and we will just be filling up that entire space. So as of right now, my red actually has dried, so I'm just going to grab onto that, as I can't grab onto this white portion anymore on the bottom. And then I'll just drag around those 2 dots of purple paint, and we will fill in the remainder of the rainbow. All right, so I pulled it all the way down, and we will set this aside and we will let this dry. And while this dries, we will be making the cloud portion of the rainbow. So I'm just going to set this over here. And I will just keep it on this plastic, that way paint doesn't get anywhere. So as a reminder, looking back, we will be making the cloud next. So first, I'm going to take a piece of paper. I'm just going to rip one out of this pad that I have. Otherwise, you can use any type of paper you have. But I would recommend using white as we are making a cloud. So from here, I'm just going to kind of outline the shape I want. Some other ones I played around with, unlike this one. So as you can see on this one, it only has 6 kind of puffs around the edge, whereas this one has a lot. So I thought I would show you guys the differences in what you can do with this. I personally like the look of this one better, so I'm going to make a cloud that only has a few of those shapes. So I'm taking my black marker and I'm outlining it. You could take a pencil, a pen, anything you have. Otherwise, you could just cut right into your paper. That's an option too. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to follow any certain line. So I will start at the top. And one thing that I am going to do is I'm going to take that second half of the paper plate we didn't use just to kind of size it. And I'm going to put it up and try to figure out how long we want the cloud. So I'm just going to see where those edges are and start there. So I can see, how long it is here. So we will go 1, 2, just like that. And as you can see, it will line up with our plate because we don't want it to be too small, but we also don't want it to be too big. Then I'm gonna go on these sides, and then I'm gonna just connect them with 2 more, just like that. And I wouldn't worry about cutting inside or outside these lines. You do wanna follow the lines somewhat, but we will be flipping this to the back, so it won't matter anyways. So I'm just going to vaguely follow this line all the way around. Again, as I said in the beginning of the video, if you are using scissors, please be careful because they can hurt your fingers. All right, so as you can see, I cut out these shapes and you can see that black line, but no worries because we will flip that over. Next thing you're gonna want to do is you're gonna wanna add the face of your cloud. So as I said, I am going to be using googly eyes, but you could also just draw them in with your marker. So I'm gonna draw in the smile. And I'm gonna draw in a big smile like I did for the example I showed you. So I'm just gonna make a big kind of half circle. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit more, try to make it even. But if it's not even, that's all right too. I'll bring it up a little bit more. And then I'm gonna go back and kind of thicken it. And you can make the cloud's face however you would like. You can add a nose, you can add some rosy cheeks, you can add some freckles. So here I added his mouth. As I said, you can add other details. I'll add some freckles so you can see what I mean. So there are his freckles. I just added 3 dots at the corners of his mouth. You could also add a tongue sticking out. I'll do that for this one. I'll just add another kind of half oval shape here on the side, and then a line in the middle. So it looks like his tongue is sticking out. And then we can add our googly eyes. So I have really small googly eyes, but you can have any size, otherwise you can always draw them in. I'm gonna draw, as I said, you can add in more details. I'm gonna draw him glasses. So I'm gonna do 2 big circles. You could also use any color you want for this. I'm just using black as that's the only colored marker I really had available to me. But if you have other colors, that would be cool as well. You could give him some colored glasses. You could color in his mouth. Okay, but as you can see, I made this portion of his glasses, and then I'm just gonna bring them out to the side so they are kind of wrapped around his face. So as I said, you really can kind of take this any route you want to go, as you have the creative opportunity to make his face any way you want it. Another option, you could add some eyebrows in. I'll add those so you can see. I just added 2 little lines, but I think I'm gonna keep him like that. So I added in all those details, and the last part for mine is I'm gonna be adding in those googly eyes, which again is completely optional. So I'm just going to take my glue and kind of scrape them up on the back. What is nice is a lot of googly eyes are stick back googly eyes, which means that they do have just sticker backs. You just have to peel them off and stick them down. Unfortunately, I don't have those kind, which makes it a little bit harder to glue, but all is good. Okay, so as you can see, I put in our googly eyes. There is some purple on the edge, but I'm not going to worry about that as Elmer's glue dries clear. So now we have the face of our cloud done, and the last part is to stick it onto our rainbow. So we'll bring our rainbow back over here, and it is a little wet, but not enough for me to worry about it. So again, you could use your glue. I would just glue on the 2 top portions of the cloud and then glue it down. Instead of glue, I'm just gonna roll up pieces of tape. So I'm gonna do 1 roll and just stick it at the top of the cloud. And then I'm gonna do another roll. Okay, so as you can see, I rolled up 2 things of tape, and then I will just be lining it up with our rainbow and sticking it down. All right, so that is stuck pretty well. Something else that you could do just to kind of make sure it's safe, if you are using tape, you could take, I'll do 3 extra pieces and tape on the back portion just to make sure it is taped down. So as you can see, this is the back, and if you just tape the paper down to the plate, so we'll do 1 in the side, 1 in the middle, and then we'll do 1 on the other side, Just gonna pinch it down before we do it. Just like that. So pretty simple, but there you have it. As you can see, you can take these very different routes. If you look at this one and you look at the one I showed you before, they look very different already. Here's another shape that you could use for your cloud, but I personally like this one. But I hope you guys enjoyed. This craft is super fun and super easy. You don't have to use paint if you don't want to. Like I said before, you can use markers or crayons or colored pencils, anything you want to get that rainbow design. But thank you guys so much for watching. I had so much fun, and I hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of your week, and I will see you on Sunday with another painting activity.